Everyone. All right. We're recording, we're live streaming, we're waking up early here with Joe Templin. So welcome to today's time with Joe. Joe, we need like a catchy, other than, Jolt of Joe. We need something else catchy to call this morning session. But
Well, we can't call it Cup of Joe because I think that one's like, a registered trademark. But this
exactly.
is a Jolt of Joe. This is going to get you fired up and woken up and help you produce more. So this is basically, waking up with Joe, and we're going to get going. Suzanne, you want to like make something
Yeah.
up about me real quick?
Yeah.
Why
So
people should
everyone, this
listen to
is
me?
everyone, this is Joe Templin. He's one of our most loyal NAIFA members, and evidently he is known as the most interesting man in insurance. So we're going to talk about doing all sorts of stuff. He is actually a certified human Kaizen expert, unbelievable background. So Joe, thanks for being on this morning, getting us going. This program is courtesy of NAIFA, the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. And if you're online here and you're not a member, I please encourage, I'm sure Joe will say, make the ask as well. Consider joining, and I'm sure he can tell you why in just a second. All you have to do is go to belong.naifa.org/join and come on in. And we have great rates that go along with how long you've been licensed. With no further ado, Joe, I'm going to be quiet, turn it over to you and get us going for the day.
Okay, and this is meant to be interactive, so make sure that everybody can interact, please. Suzanne, please put your phones on mute or your computers on mute in case there's a dog or kids climbing around. I completely understand, but that way we can all focus. And I'm actually going to start with how I start most of my meetings, with an if-then statement. If you find today valuable, if you got at least one idea you can apply in your business that is going to make you money, then I want you to join NAIFA. The cost is so dirt cheap. It is so low, and the value proposition is so high. So if you get any value out today and you can make money from it, then I ask that you join NAIFA, and that is the deal that we have. And I'm not a paid staff member. I am a volunteer just like everybody else. I've been a NAIFA member for 25 plus years. When I joined as a college intern back in the day when dinosaurs roamed the earth, as my kids like to say, Jim Nemec handed me my Northwestern Mutual college intern contract and my NALU contract at that point and said, sign both or sign neither. And so this is important. But a little bit of background about me. I'm an applied physicist by background. I graduated from both the Johns Hopkins University. I started college at 12 because or 13 because my parents said 12 was too young. And then I went to RPI, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and got degrees in physics and engineering and communications and finance. Came into the financial services industry a while back and have been involved first as an advisor, then as a manager where I was also advising, then as a consulting working with agencies and individuals and entire companies. And I work cross industry. So my job is to help make you better. So let's go back into the day. 1824, 200 years ago in upstate New York, where I'm currently seated, a small school was founded. It was originally called the Rensselaer School. It is now known as Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. It is the oldest engineering school in the English-speaking world. We are so nerdy that our fight song is e to the x dy dx, e to the x dy. Cosine, secant, tangent, sine, blah, 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 blah. And our mascot is the engineers. So I am a nerd. My email address is headgeek@unique-minds.com if you want to reach me. Head geek, because I am an unrepentant geek, and that's the way it is. And I built $1 million roundtable business off of working with 22-year-old engineers just graduating from college, selling them life insurance and disability insurance, the group least likely to buy life insurance on the planet. And I built $1 million roundtable and eventually top of the table business off of working with individuals like that. So the opportunities are out there as long as you look for them. And I'm going to teach you exactly how to find those opportunities. So that was 200 years ago. RPI was founded. In 1890, 134 years ago, also in upstate New York, a little organization was founded to help guide and serve the life insurance industry, to speak for the producers and ultimately for their clients. That organization was called NALU. In 1999, it changed its name to NAIFA. For 130 plus years, NAIFA has been helping you sell insurance. I don't sell insurance anymore, ladies and gentlemen. I advise advisors. I lobby on behalf of NAIFA as a volunteer. I'm not paid for this in any way, shape, or form because I believe in the nobility of our profession. NAIFA and the insurance industry made me millions of dollars. I evolved as a human being, as a leader, as a coach because of what NAIFA gave me. And so that's why I'm paying it back. And that's why I'm sharing with you today. And, fast forward a little bit further, in 1995, both Sam USA and I entered the profession. I entered as a college intern while I was working on my MBA in finance. And I learned more as a college intern than I did with my MBA. And I've done more good in this profession working directly with business owner clients and individuals than I could have in any other space, whether I'd gone to Wall Street to be an analyst, or if I'd gone into politics, or if I had stayed with my buddies and built a couple of tech companies. I have had more impact on the American economy and the individuals in my region and across the country because of this organization and what I did. My background, I was 440. I've made MDRT. I've sold $1 million of premium. So if you want to sell more premium, I'm actually going to show you how to do that. I'm not just some crazy dude. I'm actually a crazy smart guy who figured out how to sell a lot of insurance very easily. I'm going to teach you that today. And I apply an engineering mindset. I believe in process over product. And when I was coming into the insurance profession in the 1990s, that's the dot-com era. A bunch of my friends were going and making millions and tens of millions of dollars being startup tech guys. And the economics of that time was weird because they didn't care about revenue. They measured success in what was known as eyeballs. And no, you can't go and spend eyeballs in your local bar. If you throw an eyeball on the bar, you get a weird look, unless it's a Navy SEAL bar. That's a different conversation for a different day. If you know what I'm talking about, we can have good conversations. We can be friends. But it is eyeballs is how they looked at whether a company was succeeding or not, whether it was growing or not, how many people knew about it. It was the top of the ADA funnel, if you're familiar with that from marketing. And so the concept of eyeballs, though, stuck with me early on. And so I don't care if I sell an insurance policy or when I'm selling insurance policies to any particular person. Whether they bought or not was not under my control. It was under my influence, but not my control. And I've studied Stoicism. So if you read Ryan Holiday, this will make sense to you. You control the controllables. What I did, though, is I needed to make sure I got paid every single time that I met with a client or a potential client. And so I want you to write this down. Introductions are payment. Introductions are payment. You might think, what do you mean by that? Every single introduction that you get, if you look at the Grantham system of accountability, which Northwestern uses, led to the one card system, almost every organization out there uses a variation of this. We talk about our sales ratios. It's typically 10-3-1s the old days. It's actually slightly better than that now because you can sell disability and investments, long-term care, all these other products. So it is close to about, I'd say 8-5-2. Is really what it comes down to. So 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 introductions that you get will translate into giving you money in some capacity. And so I look at that as every single introduction that I get, every single referral, to use the old language, which I dislike, I prefer introduction. Every single introduction is basically a lottery ticket with a 1 in 5 chance of paying off. And that payoff can be anything from $20 to $20,000. Think of it that way. If your odds of winning were that high, how often would you play that game? Benjamin, I'm going to call you out. How often would you play that game? Come on, dude, play with me. Talk to me. Wake up, everybody.
Sorry, Joe, I'm driving.
Okay. Well, don't
I,
crash,
I would
please.
play it more often than the game of listening to a presentation while driving.
You would play that game every single day. Every chance that you had, you would play that game. Now, if I told you that you're sitting down with a client and all you have to do is ask, and you'll get 5 of those lottery tickets, meaning on average, that meeting was worth anywhere from $250 to $1,000 to you. But all you have to do is ask and then pick up those tickets. Why would you forget to ask? Don't you like money? Think about it. If you had 5 $100 bills sitting there on the table with your client, and all you had to do was ask for that money and it would be handed to you, why are you not asking for it? Oh, I didn't feel like it. It wasn't the right time. I never ask on the first meeting. I'll ask once they buy something. That's it. Once they give me money, I'll ask for more money, but I won't ask for the initial payment. Do you see the flaws in the logic around that? So as an example, I've got a young man who I'm working with. He's up in Canada, so he's not a competitor of yours. And unfortunately, he can never join NAIFA because he's foreign, works in a foreign country. But we were looking at his numbers, his activity ratios. And he's working in a property and casualty firm. So he's got a book of business that he's servicing, but he knows that he needs to generate new business. In the first quarter of the year, before I started working with him, he averaged 1 introduction per month. In February or April, where we are now, I told him at the beginning of the month he needs to pay a little more attention to introductions. And I gave him literally 2 to 3 minutes worth of coaching. He went from 1 introduction per month to 1 introduction per week in that time period. I met with him yesterday at noon, went over these exact concepts with him, gave him the exact language I'm going to give you in a couple of minutes, and made him promise that he would get 1 introduction per day for the rest of this week. Because based on his sales ratios, that'll get him to $1 million roundtable. Yesterday, after that meeting, he got 2 introductions and he's gotten 1 so far today. If we can get him to keep getting 1 introduction per meeting, that's only 1 introduction per meeting, he will make at least the quarter of the table, maybe even the top of the table this year. That's, close to $1 million of revenue for getting 1 introduction per meeting. That $100 bill sitting on the table, all you got to do is ask for it and they will hand it to you. I want to understand how valuable it is and how easy. And to get it, there's 2 things that you really need. You need tools and techniques. That's what we're going to go over today. Tools, first thing, always use an agenda. I go into a board meeting as the president of the Autism Society. We have an agenda so we don't screw around. We don't waste time. I go in to see a banker about getting money. We have an agenda and a business plan associated with it. I sit down with a potential client. I have an agenda so that we're not just wandering around and talking about the fish on the wall and we don't have structure. Clients want leadership. And one of the best ways to have leadership is to have an agenda. Introductions, mutual expectations, data gathering, red flags, brainstorming for favorable introductions, setting next meeting. It can be that simple. You put their name on the top, you put the date, expected time of meeting, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. It's that simple. By the way, anyone who's not yet a NAIFA member, if you sign up today, I will send you a copy of my agendas that I've used. And they are compliance approved, by the way. Okay, so use an agenda every single time, whether it's your first meeting, whether it's your presentation meeting, whether it's your review meeting. And every single agenda has on it in the next last slot, brainstorm for favorable introductions. It's on the agenda. We can't skip it. It happens every single time. And when I was still a practicing financial advisor, I used to have clients walk into my meeting with me for reviews with typed lists of people for me to talk to, because they knew I worked strictly on an introduction basis, because every single meeting I talked about it. So every agenda have on there, brainstorm for favorable introductions. You do just that, you're going to see at least a 20% jump in the number of introductions that you get. Secondly, always have a feeder list. Every single meeting that I would go into, I would spend some time beforehand to do some due diligence. I would have, yes, I would cyber stalk them. I would go to their LinkedIn profile. And by the way, if you go to somebody's LinkedIn profile, they can see that you've gone there. I wanted them to know I was checking them out, because that's what professionals do. Professionals do their due diligence. So I would go to their LinkedIn. I would go to their Facebook. I would go to their company page to be able to pull these names of individuals that I wanted to talk to. Okay, so having a feeder list, it literally takes you 5 minutes to put together a feeder list. And you can do it on Sunday night, sitting there drinking an adult beverage, watching the Yankees game like I always did. 5 minutes to put together that feeder list to get 5 introductions. 5 minutes for $500 using that $100 per introduction ratio. Anybody, waste 5 minutes every day? If you took that time that you're dorking around checking out the sports scores or to see, what the latest celebrity's done, or, who's singing what, or that sort of stuff, you take that 5 minutes, put together that feeder list and agenda, you'll make $500. It's that simple. You just have to consistently do it. Second thing is always have set questions that you can use. I have a list of questions that I feed to business owners. Who are your best suppliers? Who is your friendly competitor that you like and respect? Who are your key employees? Who are your key relationships? Who else, is in your ecosystem that you work with that you like and respect? So having those feeder lists, other feeder lists that you can use with individuals. Who's going to be guardians of the children if anything happens to you? Who is your attorney? Who is your accountant? Who are your other advisors? Having that feeder list allows you to set questions that you can use with basically anybody, will always allow you to be able to walk away from your meetings with a handful of introductions. If you're getting a handful of introductions every single time, it makes dialing easier. It makes you understand your sales process better. It relieves anxiety, because the reason why most new advisors fail is because they don't have anybody to call. But if you got 5 or 6 new people to call every single day, you're not stressed out. If somebody tells you no on the phone, oh, okay, I got another 250 people to call. No big deal. And you'll replace that person with new names by the end of the day. It's changing attitude. It allows you to live an abundance mentality with it. And the last part about tools and techniques is keep track. I still use my SAM USA Green Book from day one, and I use the online tracker now too. If you can't track it, you don't know what's going on. I can look back and I can tell you exactly the number of introductions that I got on any random Tuesday in 1999. I could tell you the value of an introduction to me then was $27 per, because I kept track of it, and it gave me insight into my business and allowed me to improve in the areas where I was weak, like phoning, and it allowed me to drive the activities that made me successful: appointments kept and introductions per appointment. So keeping track with SAM USA of how many introductions you have and your appointments and all that is going to allow you to get more introductions. And remember, every introduction is worth how much to you? Anybody? Anybody? Every introduction is worth over $100 to you. I'm willing to bet that. I'll bet dollars to donuts to that. Every introduction is worth $100+. So pick up those $100 bills, pick up those C notes. Okay, so that's the tools component. Now let's get into the techniques. All right, and I want everybody to be able to write stuff down. Ben, if you're driving, please don't write it down, because we don't want you to crash. This is being recorded for posterity, so Suzanne will send you the audio if need be. There's really 2 techniques that I use continuously to get what I want. Whether it is getting introductions, where it's getting appointments on the phone, where it's getting my teenage kids to actually clean their room. You can use the same 2 techniques over and over again. and they're taken from partially from the engineering world that I spoke about. The first is Boolean logic. This is in computer programming, the if-then statement. And I applied it at the beginning of this session. If I created value for you today, you got something beneficial, then you will join NAIFA if you're not yet a NAIFA member. If then, I use this right up front when I'm talking with a potential client. If I create value for you today, then you will introduce me to other people who can benefit from sitting down and talking to me the same way that Suzanne introduced us. I'm going to repeat that, and I want you to write this down. Ben, you can't write because you're driving. If at the end of our time here today, you felt that I helped you, if I create value for you, where it's saving you money on your taxes, getting you to do the legal documents that you need done, getting you to put more money into your 401k so you get the free contribution from your employer, finding you that babysitter that you need, helping you solve any other problem. If I create value, if I help you, then you will introduce me to other individuals who can benefit from sitting down and talking with me the same way Suzanne introduced us. Is that fair and reasonable? If you're sitting down with somebody that you didn't meet through an introduction, you don't put it in the same way so-and-so introduced us. That's the one caveat. Let's break this down. Okay, the if-then statement. This is basically playing to the fact that human beings live in a reciprocal environment. If you look at the middle part of our brain, the monkey part, which is the limbic system, which is for emotion and relationship, is the center of trust in the body. And people will introduce you if they trust you, but also if you have a social contract with them, if then, and you deliver on what you say, they are morally obligated to deliver. You do something nice for somebody, they want to do something nice for you. You smile at somebody, they want to smile back. You do good for somebody, they want to do good for you. So you create value and you're making it very blatant. You're making them understand and intellectualize this and agree to it. You're essentially getting a handshake with them. If I create value, then you will introduce me to other individuals. Notice I don't say, will you introduce me? Because that's soft. That gives them an out. If I create value, then you will introduce me to other individuals who could benefit from sitting down and talking to me. Okay, not who can buy insurance, not who can give me money, not who, whatever, that can benefit from talking to me, because I help people for a living. Sometimes it requires selling a product. Sometimes it's just planning. Sometimes it's just opening up my Rolodex and helping them find other individuals who are more appropriate to them at that point. But every single person I sit down with benefits from talking with me. I add value continuously. It's my mindset. You're in financial services, focus on the service, focus non-selling, but on helping. If you do that, people are going to want to share you. If I create value, then you'll introduce me to other individuals or organizations that can benefit from sitting down and talking with me the same way so-and-so introduced us. Going back, you're borrowing that prestige. You're reminding them that, so-and-so said that you guys should talk. And the only reason you're having this conversation is because Suzanne or Bob or Bill or Jenny or whoever suggested that you meet. Because that's going to be critical at the end stage of this. Is that fair and reasonable? You need to have that stage in there so that they agree. Because one, is it fair? If I add value to you, should I get value? Are we both capitalists? Yeah. And is that reasonable? Because you can have something that's fair but unreasonable. Hey, you know what? You tripped me, so I'm going to poke your eye out. That's not exactly reasonable. Hey, your library book was late, so you have to pay, $100 fine. That's not reasonable. hey, I help you out by introducing you to, an accountant or a babysitter or a psychologist or a banker. And, I, point out how you can redistribute your cash flows to reach your goals. And you've got some shortfalls in your savings and your protection, stuff like that. If I do that, is that reasonable that you introduce me? Yeah. So is that fair and reasonable? And I use this phrase so much that my teenage children try using it on me. Doesn't work because normally they're asking for unreasonable requests, but is that fair and reasonable? Putting that at the end of your if then statement makes it so that they have a potential out, because if you don't deliver value, you don't have to get paid. But it also gets them to agree, yes, this is the deal before the deal, to use what Sandler sales system calls it, the upfront contract. This is our Boolean logic if then agreement that we have that they buy into. So if I create value, then you will introduce me to other individuals who could benefit from sitting down and talking to me the same way so-and-so introduced us. Is that fair and reasonable? Yes. Awesome. Boom. Then your job is to just deliver value, to help them, to serve them, to guide them, to help them in different capacities, to be the financial services professional you should be that NAIFA teaches you how to be. Okay. At the end, how you close the contract, essentially, you get to basically then in a meeting and say, oh, well, Anthony, as we're getting to the end of our time here, real quick, one more question, by the way. Was this helpful? And yes, Anthony, I'm calling you out on this audience participation.
Could you repeat the question?
So, real quick, Anthony, before we close up, was this helpful so far?
Yes, so far, so good.
Awesome. What's been the most interesting or helpful thing that we've done so far today?
Getting to know me on a personal level, asking about, where I'm from, my background, to better understand the holistic version of me instead of just my, my finances.
Yep. And as I said, this is your plan, not my plan. My goal is to make sure that you can reach your goals. By the way, you might want to memorize those phrases, ladies and gentlemen. This is your plan, not my plan. And my goal is to make sure that you can reach your goals, whatever those happen to be. So I need to understand that. I need to look at the world through your eyes with my knowledge to help you achieve that. And so I'm really glad that, this has been valuable so far. Now, as we said when we first sat down roughly an hour ago, if I helped you, if you found this valuable, then you would introduce me to other individuals who could benefit from talking to me the same way Suzanne introduced us. To make it easy for you, I had my staff pull together some research. Here's a list of some people who who I think I might want to get a chance to know. Do me a favor and cross off all of the jerks, because the only jerk allowed in the room is me. And that's where you deploy your feeder list, and you hand over that list of 8, 10 individuals, and they'll cross somebody off saying this person's a jerk. And, well, I don't know about them. And then you're getting into talking about it, but you're making it easy for them to hand you those $100 bills that were sitting on the table. So what you do to close the contract, thank you for participating, Anthony, by the way. So the easy to close the contract is you literally ask them, was this helpful? What was most helpful to you? Because what might be a throwaway line to me or a concept that we all know really well, to that client is innovative. It's new. It's exciting. I mean, it might be the fact that you help them figure out the most efficient way to pay off their student loans, which, by the way, you don't get paid for that, but it helps them. It might be that you introduce them to the babysitter for their special needs kid. It might be that, you found them the CPA. I have a couple of clients who ended up getting married because I set up the blind date for them. They're still married, so that's a, good relationship. That wasn't a bad one. It might be, where you talk about, joining a gym, or when you're, kibitzing about that marathon, you get them excited for running a marathon with you. Whatever is important to them is important to them. They found it valuable. They get value out of it. They deserve to pay you. So you make it, you remind them of it, and you make it easy. As we said when we first sat down, hour ago, whatever it is, if I helped you out, if you found this time valuable, then you would introduce me to other individuals who could benefit from sitting down and talking with me. I did a little bit of research. Here's some people who I think you know that I might want to get a chance to know. Cross off all the jerks. Tell me a little bit about them. Which one of these guys do you spend the most time with? Does anybody see any reasons why you couldn't do that process on a regular basis? I'm looking for objections here, because using the Boolean logic if then is the first technique that I always use. The second one is a technique for overcoming any objection. You can use this with clients on the phone. You can use it in a closing presentation. You can use it when you're trying to get introductions. You can use it with your significant other. Be careful with that one because they'll figure out what you're doing over time. I use it with my teenage kids all the time. I use it in business situations. I've used it with Suzanne. She'll recognize this instantly. I have a fascination with pirates, by the way, and it goes back even before Pirates of the Caribbean. I've always wanted to be a pirate. September 19th is International Talk Like a Pirate Day, which typically happens during the annual meeting. So I dress up like a pirate with Wayne Boozer and a couple other guys. Suzanne is laughing at me because she's seen it. So write this down. This is the pirate model for handling objections. R. A, R, R, R. That's why it's called the pirate model. R. Okay. Anytime somebody hands you an objection, where it's to giving you an introduction, where it's to meeting with you on the when you're calling them to set up appointments, where it's to buy the life insurance that you're suggesting. And I'm going to use this if any of you give me any objection to joining NAIFA, by the way. I will go through these exact same steps, and eventually you're going to run out of objections and you're going to join NAIFA. R. One, acknowledge the objection. People want to be heard. This is a deep psychological need. You know what, Michael, I hear you. I understand that sometimes in the past, when people have asked for introductions or referrals, it's been like the Kirby salesman. They come and they dump crap all over. However, have I done anything like that to show that I am anything less than professional?
No, you haven't.
Okay. So secondly, the second step is address it. So how I'm going to interact with these individuals is, I'm just going to reach out to them the same way that I reached out to you. And when I reached out to you, was I obnoxious? Well, really obnoxious, because I'm slightly obnoxious, as we all know. Was I abusive? Did I try and shove insurance down your throat, or any of these other, concerns that you might have?
No, sorry, I'm getting the girls off to school, but no, you're not.
Okay, so we'll go through this quick so you can get the girls off to school. I apologize. So then you redirect, but as I said, really, I just wanted an opportunity to meet them, shake their hand, show them about the type of work that I do, start building the relationship. So when they have a need, whether it's now or 5 years down the road, they have me in their phone. They have the relationship with me. They understand how I can help them, so that when something pops up, they know who to call so I can help them out. So with that being said, is there any reason why I shouldn't be reaching out to these three individuals?
With that being said, I don't see any reason, no.
Awesome. Boom. And then you just repeat. Because if he had an objection, I would, acknowledge that new one. I'd address it. I'd redirect. I would re-ask for whatever I want, and then I'd repeat the situation. So same thing, you're calling somebody on the phone to get an appointment. Hey, this is Joe Templin. Am I catching you at a bad time? So-and-so said good things about you, suggested that we meet. What tends to work best for you, morning or afternoon? Well, that's not really the reason why I'm calling. I'm not trying to shove insurance down your throat. It's just that Suzanne said such great things about you, suggested that we get a chance to meet so I can see how I can help you out now or in the future. Morning or afternoon tend to be best. Well, that's not really the reason for my call. Boom. And you just keep playing it until eventually they realize that you're calling because Suzanne said such good things, that you're asking for introductions, not because you're going to go stuff insurance down their throat or get them to buy, some highfalutin stock or whatever, because you're trying to build a relationship so that you can help them either now or down the road when it's appropriate. Michael, yes.
Actually, so if I can go back, and if I gave you the objection of, that's fine, but let me talk to them first.
Michael, that's awesome. I want you to talk to them so that they don't get this, call from this big-nosed weirdo. What I've found, though, is that if one, I don't put a little bit of a deadline around it, then you'll never talk to them because everything's else is coming up. You got to file your tax returns. You got to get the girls off to school. Yes, I'm utilizing your current situation because that's one of the things that we do. There's going to be something like that. So one of the things that I have found in my experience is that if I get the names from you and then follow up with you in a couple of days, you probably won't have talked to them yet. And when I follow up on so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, you'll then reach out to them because that's just human nature. So with that said, let's talk about people that you're going to talk to over the next few days, and that I'll follow up with end of the week, next week, after you've talked to them.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
And the other thing is, you know what, Michael? One of the things that I've actually found is the best way to open that door without offending people is a mutual introduction text, where you send a text to me and each one of these individually so that they're separate conversations. And you basically say something like, hey, Bill, this is Joe. I've met with him a couple of times. He's a finance guy. He's a little weird, but he's got a lot of good information and he's not being that much of a jerk. I think you guys might hit it off because you're both Yankees fans. John or whatever name I made up. This is Joe, this is John. We went to college together. He's a big Yankees fan like you guys. I think you're both going to the game next week. Hopefully you guys hit it off. So something like that opens the door. And if they respond, I'll be able to open up the conversation and they can see that I'm not a horrible human being. And if they don't respond, you know what? Then we'll figure something out to see if it just needs a little push to open that door or if they're not interested. But it's a low key way for me to get a chance to get on in there and help some of your friends lay the groundwork for their financial future. Is that fair and reasonable?
Absolutely.
Boom. By the way, 75-ish% of the time, that mutual introduction text leads to an appointment within 2 days. Back when I was new in the business and, I had a phone on a door and we didn't have cell phones and dinosaurs roamed the earth and we wore corduroy pants and all that, you'd have to call everybody or you'd actually have to knock on the doors. Use the existing level of technology and communication. I send a ton of, or I teach people to send a ton of DMs on LinkedIn, using instant messenger or various other DMs, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Snapchat. Don't recommend that one, but if your firm allows you to use it, text messages, whatever method of opening the communications with a potential client that works, use it. So acknowledge the objection, address the objection, because too many people say, yes, I hear you, boom, and then they just deflect interest instantly. And the client's like, but you didn't answer my question. Okay, acknowledge it, address it, redirect as appropriate, Re-ask, always go and re-ask. If you ask at least 3 times, you're probably going to get the appointment or the introductions of the business. And then just repeat the cycle as need be. If you use Boolean logic, you're using agendas and feeder lists, and you apply the pirate model, you're going to start getting so many introductions you won't know what to do with them, which is a good thing. Then you just call all the best ones first. Okay, there's a reason why I kept on average 5+ selling appointments a day for over a decade. Not because of my movie star good looks, not because of my wonderful personality, not because of my extreme sales capability, because I have none of that. It's because I ran these processes. I used these tools and techniques to be successful. So with that being said, anybody have any questions? Anybody want to role play since we got a little bit of time? I'll, literally, answer any question that you have about working with a client in any capacity. Nobody. Geez, you guys need more coffee. Okay, so if that's the case, then here is my closing of the contract. As we said when we sat down 42 minutes ago, if I create value, if I give you questions that you can utilize with clients, if I give you insight into the value of introductions, if I give you a process that you can utilize or tools to be able to get more introductions, then you would join NAIFA, because it's so damn dirt cheap that a single introduction pays for your dues for at least a quarter. On top of that, I'm going to sweeten the deal. Anybody who joins NAIFA today who's not yet a NAIFA member, or if you've already joined, send me an email and I will send you a code for the Sales Activity Management Everyday Excellence email that we put together for SAM USA in conjunction with NAIFA. You get a free month. Every single business day, you get an email that gives you like an introduction question or a closing concept or a biohack. One of the guys that I was talking with yesterday thinks the biohack that he got this week is worth thousands of dollars to him. Every single business day, you'll get an email. You'll get the first month of that for free as a thank you for supporting your professional association. All you got to do is join NAIFA if you're not yet a member. And then Suzanne will send me your name. If you're already a member, reach out to me. I'll get you the code for that free month so that you can continue to grow and develop as the professional that you should be. And with that, I'm done, Suzanne, unless you have more questions.
Joe, I was just thinking, here, I do have a question. Let's say you're asking a client, I mean, I hear this one from advisors all the time. And, so you're asking them for this introductions, who they're thinking about, et cetera. And they're like, and here's their objection. Joe, I don't really feel comfortable giving out people that I know. What do you say?
Really, Suzanne, is it okay if we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Okay, sure.
So is it that you don't feel comfortable introducing other people because I've failed in my responsibility as a professional to educate you and help you?
Oh, well, no, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want you jumping down their throat, right? Like, I don't want them to be mad at me that I've introduced, you to them.
I completely get that, because I'm such a jerk. I'm scary. I understand that. And I'm trying to get Suzanne to laugh, because if somebody laughs, by the way, they are 35% more receptive for the next 10 minutes, per Chris Voss, the former head of hostage negotiation for the FBI. So this guy was getting people released from rebels who wanted to kill them because he was able to build rapport and get them to laugh and to make them feel heard, acknowledging and addressing, like we talked about. So, one of the things that I would do is I'd just get him talking to me, tell me about that. Have you had bad experiences previously?
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
And
Sure.
if
Yeah.
yes, you get them to talk about it, because, unexpressed emotions will, fester and burst forth, to quote Nietzsche, or that's not Nietzsche, actually, that's Sigmund Freud. So get them to express it, get them to talk about it, and then compare and contrast. Have I done anything like that?
Mhm. I've also heard someone say, which I thought was a good tip too, is they need to get the end client to think of, or the prospective client to think of the financial advisor as part of their professional circle, right? Like that this is part of their care team, which I think is a really good way to think of it. And that, if they're a professional, they have a professional set of people that are caring for them, and you want to be part of that set. I think that's
Yeah, I mean,
a
my
good way to
clients
think.
would introduce me as, this is Joe, he's my guy. He does finance, but he's got so much other stuff that he helps me with. It's amazing. So like if you ate a great restaurant, Suzanne,
Mhm.
okay, and cost was incredibly low, value was off the charts, would you want to tell your friends about that restaurant?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
If you read an incredible book that was worth $100,000 to you potentially, that literally changed your life, would you share that book with the people that you care about?
Yep. So why
I
not
am
this?
more than that book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm better than a restaurant. I don't taste as good, but I'm, certainly more entertaining. And you know what? My clients used to joke after an initial meeting with me, and then, much more later on as our relationships further developed, that a meeting with me is half comedy show and half therapy session.
Mhm.
And they're like, oh, yeah, and we did finance stuff too. So, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I wrote the CFP exam. I was one of the first chartered advisor of philanthropy in the country. I have multiple publications on advanced analysis, finance, stuff like that. I've written $1 million of premium, so I got all the knowledge that there is. I got more degrees than a thermometer, but people don't care about that. They care, do you care? Do they care that you make them feel good and help solve their problems? Do they care that you got their back? In the end, every client is going to be asking the same question in almost every situation. Are we going to be okay?
Mm.
In terms of, sending my kid to college, are we going to be okay? If I get hurt, are we going to be okay? If my wife, gets hit by the bus, are we going to be okay? If mom needs to go into the nursing home, are we going to be okay? I hit the lottery, am I going to be okay? Because that's an entire different, set of problems. In every situation, the client is subconsciously thinking, am I going to be okay? And our job as financial advisors is to make sure that the answer to that question, whether they've asked it or haven't asked it of themselves, is yes, you will be okay. That's our job as financial advisors. And you can use various tools and products and processes to get there. But as long as the client understands that your job is to make sure that the answer to that question is always yes, you will be okay, you build a relationship that can be unbreakable. And they want to share that with other individuals. You just need to make it easy to do so. That is the essence of being a financial professional.
That's awesome. I think we end it right there, Joe. I think that's
Boom. Drop the mic.
exactly. Boom. A
Join
perfect-
NAIFA. Love you. Thank you.
Yes, please get more Americans out there with the coverage that they need. And thank you, Joe, for joining us. Thanks everybody for being on and participating. We'll send this out as a recording. And again, there's a lot more of this within the NAIFA community. So we'd love to have you. I'm Suzanne Carawan. I'm the head of marketing and membership. Just give me a call and we'll get you all set up. And I hope you go out and have a great day.